Welcome back, Malik Spellman, Wild Moguls TV.
Yo, what's up to the listening public? Hope everybody had a happy holiday. Merry Christmas. I hope they bring in the new year correctly with a fresh glass of water and a lot of happiness. So, happy new year to you all. And good seeing you again.
Beautiful, beautiful. So let's kick it off, man. Who told Little Kim Biggie got murdered?
Well, unfortunately, that had to be me. I had never met Little Kim prior to that, but on or about the date that, well, exactly the exact same date, the moment that Biggie was killed that evening, I believe. Uh, I contacted somebody that I know that's in the same business as her as far as rap. I won't mention their names for the purpose of respect. But I told him, like, yo, man, be careful, because New York niggas is on one. And he's like, what's up, what's up? I said, just be careful out there, player. You out here from Cali with us. They killed your mans. Rest in peace, Biggie Smalls. He was like, what? And then he told me, he's like, yo, tell Lil Kim this for me. I'm like, tell Lil Kim, where'd she come from? I thought she was on the East Coast. She was out here on the West Coast. I guess she was out here getting AD dude, some of that piping, that West Coast plumbing. So she got on the phone. I was like, yo, Lil Kim, what's up? This Malik. I believe I said, I don't really know you like that, but they done murdered your man, Biggie Smalls. So whenever y'all see Lil Kim out there, just like, yo, how'd you find out how Biggie Smalls got killed? Where was you at? And if she be honest with you, she gonna tell you, yo, some dude named Malik told me, and I was on the West Coast. For sure. I know for sure that I put you uh, in perspective when it came to finding out what happened to Mr. Smalls. May God be pleased with his struggle. So yeah, Lil Kim, somebody walk up to you like, yo, how'd you find out about Biggie Smalls? You notice no one ever said, where was you at when this happened, Lil Kim? Was you at the Junior Mafia? Was you at Cali? Where were you at? We know you was at.
That's crazy that she was in LA during that time because I don't think anybody's ever, there's no pictures. I don't even think she was at that party that night. That's crazy. I was saying that was crazy that Little Kim was in LA because I never ever seen footage of her being in LA. You always felt maybe she was in New York at that time.
Well, that's just a figment of your imagination kicking in as a curious youngster. Because I never said she was in LA. I just said she was with one of my partners who happens to be from LA. And they were on the East Coast in New York while she was getting piped down. And when I was talking to my man, I was telling him, because he from out here, I was telling him to be careful out there. Because if you don't be careful, they own one. Them niggas is own anything Cali. And he was like, what? They didn't know Biggie had got murked. And then told on the phone, like, yeah, your boy, unfortunately lost his life to Lil Kim. And then she was like shook up, like a little bit, like kind of like in disbelief. And then my man's that I told him, he was shook up too. So they was having an East Coast, West Coast love affair up in there, on the slick sauce. And
On the slick sauce.
yeah, and then unfortunately that happened. So if people ever just try to recollect, like, Kim, where were you at when Biggie got killed? No one asked that question. That's because she was already at home in New York. And she got the call from me. Do I know her like that? Absolutely not. Do I respect her? For sure, definitely. She got some hot ass music and a cool personality. There's a couple of sisters in rap that I really respect, or just in the game, period, because women are really kicking ass in the rap game right now. But if I just go back to who helped make the most babies, it would probably be a list of like Mary J. Blige, Sade, Patti LaBelle, uh, what's the little sister name? Michelle A. The other girl that was on death row, the lady of death row. What was her name again?
Lady of Rage.
No, the first lady of death row. I forget her name. Rest in peace. But it'll come to me. They had her funeral.
Jewell.
Jewell. God bless you, Jewell. That was a real one. She had the right name because although she was part of death row, she waited patiently for her turn to get put on. And she got put on. I think she did a song or two that blew up, but she never really she really loved just being around her homies and that environment more than the music. Although she was very talented, but for the most part, Jewell was definitely the face of death row for females. Although we had the Lady of Rage, but that's another scenario. But the other sister was just phenomenal in her own way because she was really all hood, all streets, straight gangster.
Did you ever have any interactions with Jewell?
Oh yeah, Jewell was cool. That's the only one that really you can approach that was on death row at the time. And the other time she was so well respected. If you disrespected her, you probably get beat to death at death row. You know what I mean? Because she was one of them ones that was thugged out. You know, not in a bad way, but she really loved her music. She was a lady, definitely feared God, got a big, huge family. But Jewell was just one that, man, whatever she swore to, she stayed down with it. She was dedicated. So I can't do nothing but take my hat off to her, man, tip my glass, take a puff off of this for Jewell, Lady of Rage. Lady of Rage right now is a little sick, so we need to keep her in our prayers. You know what I'm saying? Last time I checked, they didn't know what was going on with her, but she low key. So Rage, if you watching this, check it out, sis. We got you in our prayers. You know what I'm saying? You know, you got rough stuff and stuff with your afro puffs. Hey, rock on with your bad self. I still remember the words a little bit. Still in the skips. Wait, rough and stuff with your afro puffs. Hey.
I was I was at that video shoot. That was at Griffith Park.
That girl is an amazing individual. She played some great roles on TV. She played that one role on Steve Harvey with my boy, rest in peace, that got killed somewhere in LA.
Who?
The brother that was on the Steve Harvey show.
Merlin Santana.
Yeah, me and Merlin used to sneak on the CBS lot when he was shooting stuff with Steve Harvey. Steve, I know you didn't want to hear this, but me and Merlin used to sneak around that corner and hit that weed. You know, he was real sneaky because he was trying to get put on. He came out here from New York or something with his family. His mama found out he had some great talent and landed on some cool roles. I believe he was supposed to be up next to play Tupac or something like that.
Yeah.
But Merlin was super cool, man. Rest in peace. You know, we used to leave the lot. I used to sell him a little weed, but we'd go around the corner. I think he had a BMW at the time or something like that. We'd be smoking a little weed. Last time I kicked it with Merlin, we was on Crenshaw at the Wiener Schnitzel.
Yeah.
And then the last time I seen it, that was the last time I seen him. And right after that, I believe he got unalived in one of those areas around there. But he was a really good dude, man. Humble, but he was trying to stay low key because you know he was dodging Hollywood, but yet in it. But very talented. But I think he was waiting for that one big shot.
No, he was very he was coming up because I remember he was my age, so I remember seeing his face all through the '80s and '90s. He was in all type of television shows and movies. He's always small part here, small part there, but real relevant shows and movies.
Yeah, and also his parents was super cool. They believed in him. I believe they moved out here from wherever they came, and they still low key about it right now today. But don't, again, as I always say, quote me on it. But I believe he's supposed to play Tupac Shakur, which he would have probably played a fabulous role of that individual.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Now let's speaking of Death Row, DJ Quick's son, he's in a little trouble. Looked like he got charged with murder. I'm not sure if he got his sentencing yet.
Well, I like to send my support out and my, of course, prayers, not in a conversational way, but in the literal sense, out to DJ Quick. I know Mr. Quick from a distance. Like I said, we was at the party on Wilshire that time, and all that chaos took place. DJ Quick and I were sitting there, coincidentally talking about HIV in the black community. And something happened where a fight broke out and whatnot, but it was quite interesting. But DJ Quick is he's an intellectual giant. You know, you see him on the videos and in the tapes, but if you talk to him, you can tell he did his homework. And it's unfortunate that his son got that situation going on. But I believe his father, being DJ Quick, probably played a super major role into his conviction. I don't think his case was probably clean. They probably threw all kinds of monkey wrenches of confusion and kept mentioning his dad. And all kids make mistakes. You know what I'm saying?
And I'm not even sure if he's convicted. I think he's just maybe going through the actual. Let me look it up real time.
Well, it's not about whether he's convicted or not, just having the case enough. is stressful for families, But DJ Quick is a soldier, and I'm more than sure that he's going to stay down with his son throughout the whole process. So just getting convicted doesn't mean it's over. You got action at getting an appeal and things of that nature. But his dad is a real street dude, so they gonna figure it out.
Wow. Yeah, he was convicted of second-degree murder in December 2025.
Yeah, I send my shout out, man, to the Quick family during this very critical time in y'all's life. I'm respect y'all privacy, but good luck to you and your family on that, man. But DJ Quick's son is not the first one, and he won't be the last. And it's hard to raise a child in Southern California. You know what I mean? It's not an easy task to have a male child, especially in Los Angeles, Compton, and Watts, because the way it's set up for them to fail. And in some instances, you have a 1 in 3,000 chance of getting killed or something, some crazy statistic that we talked about. So when you see this type of stuff going on, just remember it could come to a theater near you. DJ Quick's son didn't sign up for that. Quite sure his dad gave him a great life and a great background, but oftentimes circumstances can lead to some unusual results.
You were saying that Muhammad Ali's grave has been shifted multiple times, or
I didn't say it has been shifted because there's no such terminology as that.
yeah, I
I
was
said what
thinking.
happened is basically this Muhammad Ali's soul was in his. I just have to stand and correct you, because some of you YouTuber dudes, y'all be making up your own thesaurus as y'all go. Punctuation chart, none of that. Y'all don't care. Y'all just make up something because y'all want a thumbnail. Yeah, y'all just make up shit, like an artist. Just putting shit all in your eyes. You gotta listen close to these interviews because they get real crafty. He want me to say Muhammad Ali came out the grave like Jesus. No, player, let me tell you what happened. While you coughing on my interview. Let me tell you what happened. Muhammad Ali's spirit is so powerful. Remember, all these dudes was raised by Elijah Muhammad. And the family noticed that something was going on with his grave. Whereas I don't know if it was shifting or it had like an opening or moisture was getting in, but they seen a change in the structure of the gravesite. And consequently, there was a white dude next to him. This has nothing to do with race. We just mentioned as it's been told. His grave was kind of the same situation, but totally different one, had water, nothing like that. So the result, they had the Muhammad Ali family, I believe. I think Holyfield may have showed up and a few other people to check out the body's status inside the grave. So I don't know if they fully exhumed it, but they did raise it to a certain level where they were able to see. And one of the family members stated that Muhammad Ali looked like he was ready to go to a fight, a heavyweight championship fight in Vegas. He was well intact, well placed, skin beautiful. And then they said the man next to him, the white dude, they said he had self disintegrated pretty much in his grave. He was, physically and whatnot, he looked totally different. Probably the same age, but he was totally different. So the irony is these caskets are really waterproof. These graves are really sacred, and especially someone like Muhammad Ali, people pay homage to it all the time. And they couldn't figure out like how did this thing open and there's no moisture in there. So it's almost like Jesus, or Elijah Muhammad leaving the grave, rising up in 3 days, man. So y'all could check it out, do your research. But Muhammad Ali, I believe that grave was too small for him. He probably been left there. But he was in full attack when they seen him. So you can check with his family. I know some of y'all do online investigations. Take a look at that and get back at us. Let us know. All you do, Mr. Ali, I appreciate you, man.
Um,
He was at a brother spot on Crenshaw named Jamil, rest in peace. He had a spot called the Crenshaw Cafe. And Muhammad Ali and his daughter, I believe Mary Ann, used to come up there all the time. Right there on Crenshaw, right across from where Earl's Grills used to be. And one day I see Muhammad Ali, he was with his daughter and he was starting to get sick. And I said, "Hey, Mr. Ali, how you doing? Whoop, whoop, whoop." And he threw a jab at me, right? Boof. And I was like, oh, he did a slow, how you do, a little slow jab. I was like, all right, Mr. Muhammad Ali, don't make me have to whoop on you now, man. Don't make me have to whoop on you. And then he's like, come here, Malik, Malik, Malik. And that dude levitated off the ground in front of my face. I couldn't believe it. I was like, how you do that? Do you got a ball at the bottom of your feet? That man levitated. His daughter was right there. And this is the levitation. His feet was like this off the ground. I said, man, swing like a butterfly, swing like a butterfly, sting like a bee, or float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Because Muhammad Ali was extraordinary, not only to us, but to me. And I really respect that brother. He used to just be natural, man. Like people say, the difference between Muhammad Ali and some new world boxers that we know of that we still respect, Muhammad Ali can walk his kids to school with no bodyguard. Some of us can't.
Yeah, that's
I'm not
real.
saying no names. Muhammad Ali can walk his bodyguard. Tyson can walk his kids to school without a bodyguard. Henry Tillman can walk his kids to school without a bodyguard. I'm just saying, man, it's different. Different nowadays.
It's crazy. Tell us about Flip Wilson, man.
Oh, Flip. Flip Wilson was an American comedian. And I say that very genuinely because he came out of an era where segregation was real, lack of opportunity. But he was the first Medea. He was like Geraldine. That was his character. Before Tyler Perry, I believe it is, Medea and all them. Flip Wilson been played that character. Moms, Mabley and all them, they've been getting down. And those are unique people too, by the way. Red Fox, Moms, Mabley, uh, Richard Pryor, the Mooney Boy. These dudes had comedy, but their comedy came straight from life experiences. A lot of these dudes you see today that's comics, they shit getting written for them. But Richard Pryor them talked about their life experiences dealing with the mafia. Come here, you little, give something fried, Rich was a genuine person and they all gave back. That's the difference. And they were accessible.
Accessible.
Yeah.
Do you have any Richard Pryor stories?
Actually, I do. Richard Pryor and I, we got burnt up around the same time. He got burnt up smoking drugs. I got burnt up manufacturing drugs. And they used to have a joke with Richard Pryor. I don't know who made it, but it was like, what is this? And they used to say, that's Richard Pryor running down the street. Right? So when that joke came out, I was already burnt up from cooking PCP. And guess what joke I heard? What is this? That's Malik Dawee running down the street. So, being burnt up ain't no joke, man. But Rich was like down to earth. And thank God for Jim Brown and brothers like that really try to get him on track, man. But Rich was an American classic, always will be. And
How'd
he
you
kept
get
some
burned?
fly. Cooking freebasing. See, back then, unlike today, cocaine was cooked on the pot. It was called freebasing. It wasn't called crack yet. It was always been cocaine, but it was called freebasing, meaning you would take the cocaine, which was pure. We used to have the real fish scale dope, not this fake fentanyl, crystal meth that get you 300 years under the Trump administration. But real cocaine is like rainbow, like the fish scales on a fish. And you used to put it on a plate and you light it with the Bacardi 151, then you step back and you blow it like you light it, put the Bacardi on there, then you light it, and then that'll get all the impurities out. Then you scrape it up or something. I forgot how you do it. And then you scrape it up and then you put it on the thing. Then you used to use the 151 Bacardi to keep the torch going. So you dip it in there, but that was real cocaine, man. And the difference between cocaine and the drugs then and the so-called cocaine today, because everything back then was recreational. Cocaine has always been a rich man's high and a poor man's nightmare. But for the most part, we used to put it on you before Viagra. You put it on your private a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Toot it on your nose. People walking around with little spoons on their thing. If I'm not mistaken, and I hope your internet investigators don't find me guilty in this charge, but I believe the Queen of England was probably the first person to snort powder cocaine out the little spoon in her nose. Remember she used to say, you care for a spot of tea? Remember those commercials and all those movies? So they was the first ones. Christopher Columbus come over here looking for that cocaine and that sugar. And the rest of them dudes, Columbus and the rest of that crew, they heard the Native Americans and the Native blacks over there, they had that powder. Shoot, Columbus, hey, pack the boat, we gone, man. We're not gonna do like Moses. I remember this Jewish dude told me a joke before. That was the best joke I've ever heard. He said, Malik, Back in the days, we let Moses take charge of everything, and we told him to drive. I said, drive? He's like, yeah. We told him to drive, so he drove. He made a right towards Morals when he should have made a left towards that oil. And man, I hit the damn ground, man. I said, wait a minute. Y'all saying y'all let Moses drive the because he's supposed to have made a right towards that. He made a right towards Morals instead of making a left towards that oil. Man, I thought that was the funniest joke I had ever heard in my life, man. So shout out to my Jewish brother Shalom on that. But me and him was on the ground screaming, laughing, man. He said, it's true, man. And make that left towards that oil, baby. Then you can get some Morals. You get that bread. That was hilarious, man. And he took it, kept it moving.
I wanted to get back to Flip Wilson. You said Flip Wilson owned the food market on was that Broadway Street?
Once again, I stand to be corrected, but I never said he owned the food market because that's
the building.
That's present tense, right? He was the first person to purchase downtown property, and one of the properties that he purchased is now that court situation where they have all those food courts. I believe it's on Broadway. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you a story about Flip. Once I was at a restaurant in Brentwood, and I was having dinner. It was an old barbecue joint, and my kids was young. This is like in '97 or something like that. And Flip Wilson came in with his two daughters. Gorgeous, my God, these women are beautiful. His two daughters, man. I don't know their last name Wilson's, but I know they were very nice and extremely attractive. And I was like, yo, man, Flip Wilson, man, what's up, brother? And he was like, yo, man, what's up, brother? I said, man, he said, you remember me? I said, of course I remember you, Flip Wilson, Geraldine. I remember that brother real good. And he was so humbled, but yet history had already passed, so this generation probably didn't recognize him and don't know his work because he had stepped back for whatever reason he did. And he was so honored. Like, to me, it looked like someone said, I seen you on TV as the first person that ever told him that. You know, that feeling of accomplishment, not narcissism or any narcissistic tendencies, but yet a reminder that we respect your work. That's what I was basically saying to the brother.
Yeah.
And then as he left with his two beautiful daughters at the time, I went to pay for my food. And the lady's like, nah, Malik, Mr. Flip Wilson paid for your food. I was like, what? And we had like a gang of stuff, man. It was me and my kids and their mother. And I was so moved by that because very seldom do anyone give me something. Like one of your viewers said they have a gift for me. The biggest gift that they could probably give me is just the thought of me when you said you had a gift for me. So shout out to the brother that made that comment, and we look forward to really talking with you one day, maybe getting you on the air. And one of our subscribers made mention that they found the lady that worked for Barry Rothman. And she said she's seen her at some event at the Michael Jackson estate of some sort. But take a look in the comments and we should try to get her on the air.
No, I asked her because she said she worked on the case, and I asked her, so what was your role? I'm waiting for a response.
Cool. That was a good connection, man. So that's it though, man. But for the most part, it was called it's called the food court now.
Now, was Flip Wilson the first black to have a variety show on television?
I believe not. I believe that was okay. Comedian Flip Wilson did not own all of downtown. Of course, I've never said that. But he was an early co-investor in a juice bar located in the historic Grand Central Market. And when the developers Yellen was revitalizing the market in downtown LA, Flip Wilson was among the investors who helped spruce up the area. Wilson opened a juice bar named Geraldine's after his famous character Geraldine, known for catchphrases, "The devil made me do it." So I seen him in '98, and I believe he passed a couple of weeks after that. But he was a very successful man, and he was a nice individual. And had some beautiful children too. Lavinia Patricia Wilson, I believe, was his one of his family members. But yeah, his old Flip, man. Married to a sister named Cookie. Tuan Chai Cookie Mackenzie. I shredded that voice, that name.
Mm-hmm.
So shout out to Flip Wilson. Geraldine, and he wasn't what they call today, by today's standards, he wasn't gay. He just was very talented and was able to do what Tyler Perry's doing today. I'm more than sure Tyler Perry got that character from him. I'm more than sure because the copy will never be worth more than the original.
You know, there's one person I heard is very influential in the music business. And did you ever know Dick Griffey, Solar Records?
No, sir. I kind of stay in my lane when it comes to music because I just enjoy the finished product of music. And I've attempted to play what I call confused jazz on my piano. One day I'll play it for you. Well, I just blew me a blunt and just got to tapping at the keys, man. And it was interesting. It worked out pretty well. So whenever you get a chance to listen honest, if you have a piano or organ or any instrument for that matter, just pick it up. Am I instrumentally inclined to play before the public? Absolutely not. But as far as suspending my own self into space and darting off into infinity and believing that I'm a Liberace type pianist, yes, sir. That's about it as far as that goes.
Well, he was a business guy slash gangster.
No, I've never heard of him. But I'm going to tell you another dude that was a real gangster, Bumpy Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
Bumpy Johnson, man, I see stories about him from my mother and Bumpy Johnson from my grandmother and them, and then from books but Jumpy Johnson, forgive me, Bumpy, don't beat me. All of our rappers uh, start to emulate Italian gangsters, and to me, that's okay because you can do whatever you want. I'm like a free thinker, and my philosophy is live and let live, and you'll live a lot longer. But I'm like, do we have any black gangsters? Nicky Bonds and Bumpy Johnson. Bumpy Johnson was so cold, his enemies ran up on him one day up in the club in the basement with pistols. And he's always calm when he delivered his messages. And the bottom line is by the time they left, he came in with 12 men to try to push up on Bumpy Johnson to get the heroin in the community and left out with 11 men, left with 11 men on the ground. And the other one he sent home with a ace of spade in his pocket to give to the dude who sent the team. So Bumpy was no punk, man. When I say punk, meaning he wasn't scary and he was defending the universe and he stayed clean. So we need to do a list of black gangsters and
And
black
he did
urban
business.
cowboys.
And I heard he did business with the Italians. I think he was the first to, like, they gave him Harlem when they did the
Well, they
drug.
didn't give him Harlem because Harlem was already his. We
His,
need to get out of that philosophy like they gave us something. Nobody gave us nothing. We
that part.
earn what we get, and then the rest, man, we just take. Because we are the makers, the owners, cream of the planet Earth, and mothers and fathers of the universe.
Well, I stand to be corrected, and that's exactly what it was. They knew they couldn't get Harlem unless they dealt with him, so they dealt with him.
Well, the original mafia never wanted nothing to do with cocaine or drugs. They was happy doing their union stuff, blowing up cars. Uh,
I think it was the Bonanno brothers that started that or something.
but whatever brothers it was, the top dude, the godfather of all of them, because you remember you got the Sicilians and you got the Italians. And the Italian mafia and the Sicilian mafias are two different mafias. And the Italian mafia had rules and regulations because they were deep Catholics. They was with the Pope 100%. So they didn't want drugs in the community. But it was a couple of other people from different religions that was mafioso out the game, and they didn't give a rabbit's foot about putting dope in the neighborhood. Brothers like Bugsy, like Bumpy Johnson, and at some point they didn't even allow drugs in the community. I believe their number one thing was numbers. I don't even think they think it was drugs. They was keeping the dope man out, at least through my interpretation of what I've seen. And it's probably self-serving because I like to watch movies and write them and read and write and draw my own conclusions as I do it. So it's nothing personal, but we need to start embracing black characters like that if we're going to embrace what they call social deviants or social misfits. I'm going to get me a series of Bumpy Johnson shirts because he wasn't just gangster. The new gangster today is, and I heard a brother say this, what's his name out of Texas? Kind of dark skinned brother. He's from Hoover. Anyhow, I'll think of it in a second. But he said,
Gumby?
who?
Gumby?
No, he's always. I think him and Gumby had a misunderstanding once before. Percy. So shout out to Percy from Texas. But Percy said some stuff that was phenomenal. And I don't take sides when it comes to LA politics in other states or LA politics with each other because I'm cool with all of them. From here to Chicago. Shout out to my boy in Detroit as always. But that dude was very interesting in regards to what he said. He's like, the new gangster is not getting in trouble. True. The new gangster is not catching a felony. True. The new gangster is taking care of yourself, getting an education. True. The new gangster is to be quiet in your movement because wealth is quiet. Wealth is not loud. Karma is quiet. There's some things that are quiet that you must remain still so that you can receive that blessing or that information.
Profound. Because I remember in our era, we used to pump Malcolm X. We used to be, that used to be pushed in the matrix of people you looked up to. You know what I'm saying?
Well, um, you're right. That's in your era, not our era,
Nah,
because our era is two separate entities. See, we're, how can I say this? We're cut from the same cloth, you and I, but just two different tailors.
yeah.
You like to wear that country ass shit, and I like to stay fly. So your tailor ain't necessarily talented like mine, So when I look at that type of scenario, I'm like, okay, how do you get along with human beings? And I'll just say to myself, if you live and let live, then you'll live a lot longer. And you can't have any emotional attachments to your life in regards to how you perceive people, how business is done, relationships, things of that nature. It's very important that you know your audience at all times because if you don't know your audience, you're gonna make a mistake. And they used to have a commercial back in the days, and a dude get on stage, and he used to say, "Good morning, Detroit," but he was probably like in Michigan, probably like in South Carolina or something. So
Yeah.
always know your audience. It's called class distinction. Get in where you fit in is what they say in the streets, but know your audience and know who you're talking to, and then know the vibration that they're on. So one thing I've learned about being around successful people, when you go around them and you got an idea, that's fine if they're interested. But if you want to get your idea to come into fruition, then the best way to do it is to be on the time that they're on their time, and then they'll get to you. But you can't just walk in and don't practice class distinction and slap the secretary, God forbid, and they get to the boss. You got to work your way to the top.
Hmm. You said Arthur Ashe was a homosexual.
Once again, I never said that. I said Arthur Ashe was a great tennis player who represented black people, and in some instances, he was perceived to be homosexual. I've never seen any homosexual activity out of him, although I've watched Billie Jean King, I believe her name was, who was a phenomenal tennis player as well. I believe that she may be involved in the LBGT community. Is that it? LB? How do you say it again?
LGBTQ.
There you go. All the acronyms in one. I just couldn't get it.
Yeah.
I'm having a moment here, what they call selective amnesia.
And I think there's some more shit added to that.
Well, just put it like this. Just call them human beings. How
Yeah.
about that? These other humans, because I've never seen a person say, well, I'm not a human being, I'm a savage. Well, you are a savage, but you're not quite there yet. But for the most part, let's just look at all people across the board as human beings because we don't know what they've been through in their life. You know what I'm saying? That's why I see a lot of people talking about the great Monster Cody, rest in peace. You know what I'm saying? Gangster in peace. Monster Cody was one of the few people in the world to have his book, the autobiography of him, I believe it was, or the Monster Cody story, I'm not sure, in the school's mandatory curriculum. Speaking of curriculum, mandatory reading. Could you imagine how great of a writer you have to be and how much impact that you would have? after reading a Monster Cody book. These Monster Codys and Maliks and Dows and Kentas and Rayfields and Bernard and Ralphie Pettaways and Stans and Stan Muhammad's and brother Robert and Tony Mohammed and what's the other gentleman's name? Captain Shahid, rest in peace. Brother Will, the twins. All these are like unsung heroes. Molly Bell and Miss Vicky. All these people worked on the front line with us with the gang shit, and a lot of them lost their loved ones to it. But I'm starting to learn that let's just be human again. Let's just be kind to one another. Try and remove some of the emotional baggage that we have. One thing I learned about relationships, and I've had a lot of them because I was a man that really enjoyed, no pun intended, but I was a connoisseur of fine women. I had a cold fetish for women with like ponytails and teeth white as Taurus. I had a fetish for that. White toenail polish. I'm just being honest with you, man. There's nothing like the femininity of a female. And that's what's kind of lacking today because of all the stress with poverty and stuff. We're seeing the depletion of rare helium in the universe, and in some instances, depletion of femininity and masculinity for the most part, to be fair. But there's nothing more gorgeous and more attractive than the femininity of a woman that you see it from a distance. Perfect example. A woman will look at herself in the morning and say, I gotta run and get some milk for the baby. I'm gonna run to the store right quick. Hope nobody don't see me. But when you and I see her as men, we're like, whoa, she's bad. But to herself, she's like, you caught me, my hair is and I'm in my workout clothes. So I say that to say this is femininity is what drives society because a nation can rise no higher than its woman. So if we say we got no good women, then that means it must be a no good man behind them. Like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad used to say, a nation can rise no higher than its woman. And that's very true. So if we run around and call all our women bitches, although we use it in terms of conversation, it's conversational for us. We don't necessarily mean it because we never walk up to our mother and grandmother and say that or our aunties. But in conversation, in transitional conversation, we're able to convey messages to one another in our own language. So we took something that was bad and created a painkiller for it in order to deal with the burden that came with like my nigga, that bitch over there, and things of that nature. And we forbid other people to attempt to use it. There's a lot of discussion about other races using the N word. Um, they've niggerized our whole society. And like I said, they've had a niggardly regard for society as a whole. But it just goes to show you the power of our recycling of pain as a people and the dissemination of our pain to others to where it influences them to want to become strong like we are, have, and will always be to emulate us. So you see Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, Cubans, South Africans, people that have built-in culture, but for some reason they always want to side with the underdog in regards to the cornerstone that the builders rejected. So, like the little Spanish dudes say, my vato partners that I know, they'll never use the N word like that because they know the consequences, especially on the 4 yard or any other yard. But these youngsters, they've been niggerized, man. And if you can't run around and tell everybody stop saying it, but just be careful who you say it around because you might get your teeth knocked out. That's what they old OG vatos is telling like, man, don't do that, man. And then some people do it to tease blacks because they know we don't respond like we used to. Yeah, my nigga, my nigga, my nigga. I see it all the time. But that's good. Now we got y'all to see what the pain is like. So one day they may go somewhere and somebody gonna be like, yo, nigga.
Yeah.
But we're not saying it because we like it or it's cool. We just saying it because it's a form of transitional conversation with an ebonic twist that we created in order to escape the onslaught of our people through poverty, deprivation, and segregation. Perfect example. I don't care how much money you have. If you want to move to one of these creme de creme neighborhoods, you might want to order it over the phone or get your lawyer to get it for you and quick deed it over. Because redlining is real. My daughter, both of my kids just purchased homes. And do you know you have to show your first pubic hair on your body in order to get approved? That's how bad they've made it, especially with all the fires and the lack of housing. So black folks, remember that. It's two things that's redlining us. That's the realtors. They're gonna try, oh, just go move over to Watts or move to Ladera or you be across the street from Beverly Hills, but just don't come right here. And I find that to be strange because segregation was abolished many years ago, but spiritual mental segregation remains here forever.
But now, can I ask you a question about segregation? This is a somewhat of a controversial question, but from one aspect, do you think we were better off when we were segregated than when they integrated? Because we had stronger black businesses, we were stronger as a family. There was a lot
Are
that
you
came with
asking me the question or are
I'm
you
asking. I'm asking. Do
okay? But
you?
I sound like you was telling me too at the same
I
time.
mean, I'm setting up.
I'm kind of sharp enough to get the question though. Like
Okay.
I would have asked it like this: Are we better off today than we were yesterday? That's a rhetorical question.
No. I'm
Hold
saying
on, and I,
segregation
no, hold on a
was a
second.
key word though.
Hold on, no, because segregation and isolation and social annihilation, they're all the same. So there's no separating those three entities. It's like the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. What I am attempting to say is that segregation is something that Black people can never really avoid, one. And then we can never be segregationists because we have multiple races in our family and we're friends with people from all walks of life. So for us to have a community that's just for us and to say, were we better off on it or not, I can answer that question a little deeper if you go back a few hundred more years. The question I would ask is, are Blacks today, speaking collectively, better off today than they were yesterday? Absolutely not. They were doing better on the plantation. Let me tell you why. Look at the homeless situation. On the plantation, they'd have no homeless people. You put to work or soul. Look at how people eating out the trash now, walking down the street naked. Because if you was in a plantation when we was going through this mess, everybody looked out for everybody. So it never got to that. You notice there was very little mental health issues on during slavery. There was very little diabetes. I watched this lady that does research, very wonderful individual, and I've found myself believing in a lot of her ideologies and perspectives. But she raised a good question. She was like, "Why is it that the slaves who chopped down sugar cane during the slavery era never had diabetes?" And I, of course, asked myself, perhaps they couldn't detect it or knew nothing about it. But that's a good question. Where did this diabetes come from? Because they cut sugar cane and never got it. Then I asked myself another question. I say, they didn't look like this on the plantation. They were worse off mentally, physically, and spiritually, but they didn't have the eating out the trash, walking down the street, defecating on yourself, talking to yourself, because there was no major drug influences then. See, a lot of Black people you see today have been victims of social experiments, from housing to narcotics to mental illness, STDs, all kinds of experimental stuff that they've done that we've overcome. So that's one of the reasons you see a lot of different races wanting to adapt the Black people's survival techniques, but yet don't want to necessarily accept the consequences that come with it. So segregation and deprivation are one and the same. They're all friends and with poverty. Gangs and all that. It's not a gang, that's poverty. It has nothing to do with your violence that's within you. That's something that's called survival. And when you put in survival mode, it's a form of temporary insanity at some point in life because you do some things that are extraordinary and unordinary.
Can I ask you a question? In your generation and from maybe the generation before you, when you thought of Indian, American Indian, did you have the same look in your head like I have, which is a Mexican looking Asian? Was that your definition of what, or your vision of what an Indian looked like?
Well, there's many variations of Native Americans. I don't call them Indians because you got Cherokees, you got Pasquale, you got Blackfoot. So I don't, I think that term, in the lessons it said that these are people who exiled from India 16,000 years ago and didn't want to accept the culture there at that time. That's in the universal math lessons, I believe, for the 5%ers. But when you say Indian, people always have this picture of somebody with feathers on and and an uncivilized society or community. But it goes back to the conversation we had about the artifacts from slavery. Well, if I'm not mistaken, one of the Native Americans was approached by the European settlers, travelers, whatever they were, colonizers. And he said he ran up on the Native American, he had a spear, and the spear had gold tips on it. And he was like, yo, man, the European was like, yo, where'd you get this from? He was like, yo, I got this from the African when I got here. He taught us how to hunt. He said, from who? Yeah, I got this from the black man when we got here. He showed us how to hunt and catch food. So he gave us these gold tips to go on these spears. So when you say Indian or Native American, the black man is the maker, the owner, cream of the planet Earth, father of civilization, was created in God's image, period. Point seen, money gone. There's no part of the planet Earth that he does not have a footprint on. The original man knew every inch and square mile of the planet Earth, but he didn't want North America because North America is one of the poorest parts of the planet Earth. And he kept the best part for himself, which is in Mecca and Arabia and South and in Africa and Australia. He kept the best part of the planet Earth for himself and then gave the colonizers or the skunk, he gave the skunk this right here. That's why it has all these interesting seasons. And other parts of the world have phenomenal gardens of Eden. So it's mathematically impossible for anyone to say that, okay, these people that had stringy hair and a lambskin around their thing were the first people here when God created the black man and woman first. And we knew every inch and square mile of the planet Earth. We didn't have to be settlers, or we didn't have to be, people, what do they call people who migrants? We were already here. That's a known fact. Before us, there was none. And newsflash, after us, there'll be no more. See, put this in your gas tank. We are the people who taught civilization to the world. It's not our fault. We're not bragging about it. It's just the way it is. And he that wears the crown, you know that old saying.
Yeah.
So us being hated on or disrespected and all that, hey man, you have a reason to hate somebody that's fly. So welcome to the club. But there's no one before black people. That's not an indictment. Once again, it's an enlightenment. So don't send no messages. Oh no, we came from the Neanderthals, from monkeys. No, you didn't. You just acting like one now.
What is a Neanderthal?
Someone who came up uncivilized in a cave, drinking out of skulls, and had a beast way of life, in my opinion. Um, we're the light, and we operate under a high light vibration. That's why we're the best friends with the sun. Some people aren't. That's why our hair is important, because our hair contains electricity and vitamins and communication. A lot of people think DNA is just a way for them to identify you. Know your DNA is a direct connection to God. It sends a signal. I cut my finger, God, can you help me? He sends a signal back, and he holds a DNA to make it happen.
Do you know about the 440 frequency compared to the 432 that we should be on?
No, sir, but I do know that there's AM, FM, and satellite. and that a lot of us are on FM listening to serial killer music. AM consists of educational, political, and truck driver music for the most part to get you to and from out America. And when you notice people that's on FM, they got us shooting and killing and wilding out. Then you got some people who are on microwaves. Then you got some who are on frequency waves. So depending on what frequency that you're operating on. See, me personally, I work on a different tactical frequency than the average person, especially the police and suckers. So when you work on a different tactical frequency, you just tap in wherever you go. It's like finding a hot spot on your phone. So when you're in Rome, you do like the Romans. But all those ideologies about 4,000 frequencies and this, that, and the other one, those are just conspiratorial, is that the right word?
Sounds right.
Ways of hiding the truth. Oh man, it's a conspiracy. Oh man, you ever heard of this, that, and I heard of eugenics. I remember when they had black people in zoos in Central Park. I remember that. I don't remember seeing it myself, but I know of the history. I know about the eugenics and the lady who created the abortion pill. I know that.
Explain eugenics again to the
Well,
people.
eugenics, I'm not going to explain it because I'm not academically inclined to be absolutely correct. But eugenics was a form of biological and genetic experimentation predicated on lies and false theories. Man did not come from no monkey. You might have been in that cave checking out that skull. Not us, but you. With your dog. Not us, but you.
You, you was telling me you gave a monkey at the Central Park Zoo a lit up joint.
Yeah, that was crazy, man. When my mom used to, initially when we was growing up, we were real poor, eating hot sauce sandwiches, wearing karate shoes when you could afford them, mustard sandwiches, beans that wasn't cooked, pound cakes. We used to throw out the window with our mom and watch them bounce up in Manhattan. But I vaguely remember the question, to be honest with you.
Me too. What I just asked you? Oh yeah, the monkey with a
So
lit
ask the
joint.
question again. Here you go.
Thank you. You was you passed a lit joint to a monkey at the Central Park Zoo.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. That's crazy because although we were poor growing up in New York, the original Saks Fifth Avenue and all that stuff is New York. I used to see John Lennon all the time as a kid. I believe we lived in a building next to him because John Lennon stayed in a building called he stayed next to a building called the Dakotas, I believe it was. And Dakotas is like this private, eerie looking brick building with a driveway you go in. I've never been in there, but they filmed the movie Rosemary's Baby there. So that's why I always
Ooh.
remembered it as being a spooky place. And then right next door to him was John Lennon's spot. And then I believe they had us staying somewhere within that vicinity. And one day I came home from school. I don't remember exactly what year it was. But before I tell you that, and this is a great John Lennon story too, by the way. I used to see John Lennon. Um, I says John Lennon was the first person that I seen in a interracial relationship. And as a child, I used to look for my father, who I never could catch up with. And I seen this man on something Central Park West. Not certain what it is. Might have been 76. It's been a long time. And I used to see him every morning going across the Central Park with this Asian lady with an earring in his ear and these little rim glasses. I didn't know who he was because I was into rap and stuff like that. And I used to walk by him and speak, hey, how you doing? The bottom line is, I thought that was the most interesting thing in the world growing up in the 70s, where segregation was not as prevalent as it was before the 70s, but it was still there in terms of, race acceptance of uh, what do you call it, biracial relationships or something?
Interracial.
Interracial relationships. Thank you kindly.
Mhm.
So that really blew me away, man. Like seeing them, but then she was a cutie pie too. And the John he's have on his like black leather jacket. And mind you, I don't know who this person is. I'm just seeing him as I went to school, because I went to Brandeis High School across the street from Martin Luther King. And then they had Lincoln Center right across the street from our school, which is the orchestra house, for the opera house, should I say. And man, they used to blow my mind. So I used to look forward to seeing this dude when I come out the subway. But I used to see him in the morning going to Central Park with that Asian lady with that black coat with the earrings, because I used to always want to get an earring in my ear, and then my dad had one. And I used to look for my father, who I didn't meet until he passed or getting close to passing away, to identify. Not that I thought John Lennon was my dad or nothing. So one day I was coming out the subway. I don't remember what year it was. And I seen these people like standing around screaming. And I'm like, because New York is a strange place. You might see anything in New York. You might see a dude on the subway with a couch, an elephant, anything. This is true. You can see it right now today. And I looked, and it was the person that I seen every day on the ground with blood coming out of his head, I believe, or his eye area. And it blew me. I was like, yo, that's player that was with the Beatles. Because I hear the people saying John Lennon and the Beatles and da 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 da. And I'm a youngster. I'm like, whoa, but I seen a man on the ground, dude. And that picture's blazing my head to this day. And I never told this story to anyone. And I know one of these great subscribers is gonna say, come on, Malik, you're a lion. But these are just my life experiences. And to the gentleman in the no comment, thumbs up statement that said I'm a grifter, dude, I save lives for a living. I don't have to tell you what I do. I'm a poor man, but just keep in mind that wealth is quiet.
That part. So let's just recap. So you're saying you witnessed the crime scene just being John Lennon's neighbor because he was murdered in front of his home in New York.
Well, at the time, I didn't witness the crime scene.
You're walking back home, basically.
Let me complete this. Let me land this helicopter. You just cleared the runway. Or as they say in old school, let me skin this cat. You just hold his tail. I don't know if it was a crime scene or not initially, because I just seen him on the ground. I didn't see any casings. I didn't see a bullet. I didn't hear anybody say they shot him or nothing. Far as I'm concerned, he could have fell or got mugged, because that's what they used to say back in New York. Instead of robbery, they say he got mugged. So I didn't know what was going on, but I seen people screaming and yelling. And that's the second world famous, impactful individual in my life that I've actually seen leave this planet, was him, and rest in peace, Neighborhood for Life, Nipsey Hussle.
Wow.
Man, I'm going to send you this video, and I want you to show it to your viewers in this conversation. You guys hold them accountable for this, to show you how close I was to being right there with Nipsey, God bless his soul, when he passed. Because I left from dealing with these rich dudes in Hollywood, and I'm going to show you the timeline on the video in March. It's going to show you the time, and I want you to post it. And I kept telling my boy, Dog, man, I got to go, man. I seen Nipsey's car up there, man. And he had a little Jaguar or something like that. I'm like, man, I want to catch him. And I may have told this story before, to talk to him about buying land, right? Because I know if he would have bought it, he'd have fixed it up and probably made, homes for the poor and all that. And I couldn't catch him. So as I was going down Crenshaw, I got to like slot 54th, and the traffic stopped. It was like jam. I'm like, what is this? Because the subway is still being built. So I thought it was a subway. But then consequently, when I got to Slauson, I was about to make that right onto Slauson, coming off of Crenshaw. And the police put the yellow tape over the hood of my car, like no more cars. So I backed up. But before I backed up, it was a smoker And I hate to say it, but that's what he was. You know, some brother that uses drugs. And I asked him, you can hear me on the tape, hey man, what happened, Playboy, or something like that. And he said, oh man, you know what goes on around here. But I thought it was a fire because they had fire trucks and ambulance and stuff like that. So I went across the street to the Shell station and I looked through it. And you can see this all on tape. You know, you could see where I looked through it and I seen Brother Nipsey laying on the ground where they got the Shell station with the car wash adjacent to where the
Yeah.
alley is. And then they have the Nipsey Hussle lot. And I seen him on the ground, man. And one day at Wild Moguls, we're gonna try to send some props to the paramedics who tried to save Nipsey's life and see if we can get an interview with him. So you guys don't steal our idea, but we're already
Yeah.
working on it just to see what was his like. What was that like for them? Because what I seen at the Nipsey Hussle thing, and I lit the first candle for his untimely demise. I seen police crying, little
Wow.
kids, grandmothers, crackheads, bus drivers, federal agents. You see them all. Gang members, his so-called enemies from different hoods. Remember, I was there 2 or 3 minutes after it happened, if not 10 at max. So shout out to you, Nip. And you always had your angels looking out for me. Every time I asked Nipsey in one of my prayers through God's grace to ask God to look out for me, he'd always get answered. So shout out to Nips. And the marathon continues, baby. Because some of us is going to be in the marathon, but very few of us will be like Nip in the victory lap. Because when you're in a marathon, you run in, you hurt your ankles, you know the whole story. But when you're in a victory lap, hey, it's almost over, baby. But more money, more problems.
Uh, finish the John Lennon. So how long did it take you to realize it was what it was?
Well, I didn't realize what it was until the crowd got a little thicker. And by me having a strict mother who come up in the streets, you know, you better have your ass home at 3 something. So I couldn't stick around long because I'd have been laying down there with John Lennon's ass. My mama wasn't no joke. She knew. She went to college and learned that judo. I didn't even know they taught judo in college. She went to New York State or NYU or something. Like I remember she told me, "I'm going to college. You're going to college." Because all my relatives have been to college. They doctors and they were psychologists, whatever they did. And over the years, she was going, and then one day she came home and did some kind of move and she punched me in the chest. I was like, oh, what you do that for? 'Cause my mom had 4 boys and 1 girl. And you might as well say my sister was a boy too, because we tortured her. And so she was rough, tough, and dangerous, rest in peace. But she blazed me in the chest. Boom! I'm like, what you hit me for? Now I'm trying to keep chest up, chin down, right? She said, just in case you say something slick in the future. Who gets punched in the chest in advance? And I thank
Was
God for every ass whooping my mama gave. See, y'all kids today, y'all getting away with murder, first degree. When we was growing up, you got your ass whooped with that extension cord, that racetrack, that shoe. And then your grandma, she was so cold. You had so much fear for her, although she was the one you run to when you wanted to get away with murder. But I remember my grandma told me one day, she said, Twiggy, that used to be my nickname because I was skinny. He said, go outside and get that switch. Because I went rented a lawnmower on her account when we stayed in the projects in North Carolina. And she didn't play that because she didn't want no liability for it. And there was a dude there named Toto. One of my friends, Toto, actually got his toe cut off that day with a lawnmower. That's the truth. Toto, I hope you out there, man. Shout out to Tar Heels, North Carolina.
nigga named
The same day my grandma got on me about renting them lawnmowers from the housing project, people to cut out grass, because I used to love the smell of grass and cutting it, and all the other kids' parents would let them do it. Toto cut his damn toe off. He didn't let the lawnmower run over his foot. And his name was Toto before his foot got run over. So, and then so she told me, I'm gonna get you. She came around and see me with that lawnmower. God bless grandmothers, man, forever, man. There's nothing like grandmothers, brother. I don't care what nobody say. And she, you get home, Twiggy, and I'm gonna get you. Mind you, she never raised her voice at me. And I went home and she was all calm. She didn't say nothing. But in the back of my mind, and people that's in our generation can attest to this, when you know you got an ass whooping coming, your mind be going through metamorphosis before that ass, because the old school parents, they just whoop your ass when you came through the door. They fed you, gave you a little bath, a little lecture, and then told you to take your clothes off. It would take me 3 days to unzip my pants. Take your clothes off so you can get a whooping. I wouldn't have been good during slavery. I used to do everything slow. I bet your viewers know what I'm talking about. You taking that shirt off, and they never, you go to the bathroom, being there for 3 hours. You know that, and your mama be sitting there watching TV, soul training, and you know that ass woman, she did not forget. And my grandma would tell me, Twinkie, go out there and get that switch off the tree. And I don't know if any comedians told us or not, but based on my true story, man, I must have came back one of them Charlie Brown twigs like this. She, and she went and got it. And she went and got the one. She had to reach up. Then when you used to get your ass whooped back then, you know, definitely wasn't no talking back. You wasn't allowed in the front room with grown folks. Your ass better be peeking out that door listening to James Brown and them. You sure couldn't curse around old people. And your ass, whatever you do, better not light no cigarette or try to take no drink. What?
I thought I could laugh my way out of a ass beating. I did the same thing. Instead of the twitch, I brought back this belt. My dad said, "Go get my belt," and I brought back this flimsy ass belt I found. Nigga. And that nigga laughed, right? So I thought I could wiggle out. I started laughing too, nigga. That shit did not work.
It didn't work, man. I think I raised my hand once before my mama, like, I want to had enough. You know, you get that old young shit. Don't hit me no more. I had a rock in my hand because my teacher lied on me. Said I was failing, but I was really trying. So I came home late. I mean, you know, school get out at 3 o'clock.
He said I was failing, but I was trying.
I was, man. Don't let it be a failure like a try.
You failing.
Don't let it be a failure like a try. That's what I was taught in my own head. So I called myself not going to school because back then they used to mail your report card home. Dude, I would beat the mailman to my box so fast. Like back then, you couldn't get away. How you doing in school? I'm doing all right. Today, you know, report cards go out. The teacher, even her attitude changed that morning. It used to be Miss Apple Cranberry, be all nice. That day, she looking at everybody like this. And she mailing them report cards out. And your heart be beating like a Chevy pickup truck with pistons in it. Boom, 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 with a cam. And you get home, moms be looking at that report card, looking at you. You can't breathe.
Can't breathe.
You can't breathe when this report card. It seems like the whole house get dark and quiet. You be on your best behavior, you done cleaned up everything. So that's a day in the life of Malik as far as my childhood and thanking God for my mom and all those wonderful ass whoopings that she gave me that I thank her for to this day. But they didn't play, bruh. And your comment is leave a comment, press subscribe and like, but let us hear about your childhood trauma stories from your parents. I mean, rearing stories. Because if my mama was alive today and I was a baby, she probably get 30 to life, all the ass whooping she gave me.
Now you were saying brothers used to count their jail time, prison time with Soul Train.
Yeah, man. That was the thing to do, man. You would get, see, these youngsters don't know nothing about that. One, they can't know nothing about that. They can't relate because okay, I'm gonna lie and say something within because I know y'all didn't see that, but here's one for you haters. See, these youngsters today, they doing time, but because Soul Train is gone, they don't have this opportunity to do like we did in the Soul Train era. Back in the penitentiary, the 4-Yard and others, you did your time based on Soul Trains. So if it's 52 Soul Trains that come on in a year and you had 10 years, you knew that you had to watch 104 Soul Trains just to get 2 years in. And a lot of them brothers used to count their sentences on Soul Train. Man, I got 52 more Soul Trains to go. I got 500 Soul Trains to go. Now, mind you, there's only 52 weeks in a year. So that means Soul Train comes on 50 times in a year. So every 2 years, you done watched 100 Soul Trains. So instead of saying, man, I got 5 more years to go, they would say, man, I got 10 more Soul Trains to go.
Now hold on, man. Now I just got a whole nother picture in my head. So when you was in Folsom and y'all would
I was at
Saturday,
Old Folsom and New Folsom.
okay, Old Folsom, New Folsom. So Saturday morning, a bunch of y'all will be in the TV room. Y'all be watching Soul Train.
Well, in the penitentiary, you have a TV in the cell. I didn't have a cell because that cell belonged to the white man. But they'll put you in a cell. I wasn't a resident of prison, and I was an occupant, a POW, to say the least. So I'm gonna make the corrections as we go. And but most people that are in prisons, they have TVs that their family sent them from the streets in the cell. That's due to the fight and struggle and the sacrifice of brother George Jackson and his crew. That's why you have those luxuries in jail: radio, TV, laptops, and stuff like that. That didn't just pop up. They fought and died for that. Other than that, right now, you dudes would be crazy. What they did take off the yard in prison, which is weights, because brothers was coming home swole like Tookie and them, so they took them off the yard many years ago. Then the brothers in there, the reason they took them off the yard, because the people that were in prison was getting so swollen, so big that the prison guards couldn't handle them. You know, we had a brother named Bouncer, God bless his soul, from Long Beach. And I'm quite sure all the Long Beach people can attest to this. But he was the nicest brother, man. Had a jolly Santa Claus laugh, always on the yard. But he could take a Volkswagen. I heard that he lifted a Volkswagen by himself. He was the strongest dude on the yard, named Bouncer, in California, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Dude, he used to be on the yard showing the guards what to do with the weights. I believe he picked up a whole Volkswagen or something for the sheriffs once. And then because I used to walk the yard with him, and I've heard some stories from some of his homies how the police would try to harass him and have to call out the whole squad. Like, no, man, go get Captain. Bouncer on one. But he was the nicest person, man. Like, really, man, like, I don't know what he was in there for, but and he never took his jacket off. One thing about dudes that's on the 4 yard, they always keep them Levi looking jackets, jean jackets, but they keep them on. And they always got that salt right there, like a sweat right there, but you never know what they working with until it's wartime or they going on a visit. But I've seen some brothers in there cut like Jack LaLanne that'll make Arnold Schwarzenegger and them look stupid. I mean, cut, man, like Tookie cut for real. So they took that off the yard because the brothers and the Mexicans and the Aryans and all them Nazi lowriders, we was knocking the police out. Not that my little sevens on the hang ass was kicking up no dust, you know, but I caught a lot of 115s. Those are called write-ups. Then a lot of these dudes you see on the streets today that's professing to be tough, you know, like my boy Rat say, like my boy B-Rock say, you niggas didn't catch no 115s in jail. Y'all was good citizens up in there. Chaplain's clerks. I was in Solano's once. When I first started going, when they transferred us from Chino, then they take you to another prison to get you to another prison because they give you bus therapy, right? So I'm on the yard in Solano's, and this big buff dude, the bus came up to take people to the prison. Now, before I tell you that, there was a prison called Tracy. And to any of you subscribers out there that's from California, tap in, you know what I'm talking about. They don't have Tracy no more. You know why? Because Tracy was a gladiator school where racist white prison guards would create fights on the yard in prison and bet on them. They got busted for it. So I was out there one day and they had the prison bus going that was transferring inmates. You know, I'm walking like a tough guy. That's how you walk, because you be handcuffed and shackled all the time. You start getting that shackle. So when you see brothers on the streets bailing like this, you wondering why. Because he been shackled all his life. That's like you see crackheads and they just can't keep moving. They just keep walking because they thirsty. They don't have no water. So that when you don't have no water and your body's just running on chemicals, you get that crackhead move. You know, they won't be still and they just keep it moving. So back to the story at hand. I do a lot of diverting because I'm trying to divulge information predicated on how it comes down and what I can remember. So I was getting on the bus. They was transferring me to Tracy. Now, Tracy's a school strictly for gang members. They call it Gladiator School. Brothers probably like Baby Gangster was in there. Monster Cody's was probably in there. What's your boy's name to do big cartoon? Foundation. I know he probably was in Tracy. Johnny Moe's, Johnny Lee's. When they mentioned Tracy to me, they put me on the bus. And it was this big burly white man, corn-fed. I got on the bus. I had my little stuff. They Spellman, you going to Tracy? I was like, damn, what a nightmare. I'm going to die up in this joint. I ain't from no gang, and I'm a buster, right? So I was getting on the bus, and I'll never forget this white man. God bless his soul and send him to hell at the same time. I was getting on the bus, and he hit me in the chest. Boom! Mind you, I got the chicken chest, but he popped me like this. Boom! I was like, whoa, what did he do that for? Hard. Then he said, no, you get off the bus. So when I was about to get off the bus, right after he popped me, there's this big burly brother walked by, getting off the weight yard. And he said, you going to Tracy, Malik? I said, before I can even say anything, he started laughing. Ha, ha, ha. And that prison guard with his evil ass said, hey, you, inmate, go roll your shit up. You get out of here. He kicked me off the bus and put him on the bus. The irony of the situation was they came down to get some big buff dudes to bring back up to Tracy to fight. Because they couldn't find nobody, so they picked my little Foster Farm chicken built ass. And then when dude walked by laughing with the weight lift with the salt and all that, he laughing at me. And when he laughed at me, I wanted to cry because thought I was going to die in Tracy. I don't want to go, nobody want to go to Tracy. He said, hey, you, come here. Basically, like, nigga, bring your ass over here. And he put him on the bus, and then I started laughing when I walked by him. Ooh, he was mad. He was Buffy. He didn't want to go. But Tracy, with no joke, let me tell you something. If you black, you don't want to go to Tracy. You don't want to go to Susanville. You don't want to do that. Because you're going to look like a fly in a bowl of milk in Susanville. And they play by all the plantation rules. See, we can't always just blame the LAPD and the sheriffs and the New York police and Detroit police and all these inner city police. We got to include them damn correctional officers that'll correct your ass for pure wickedness. You have never seen a human being like Fonzel that was in Folsom with us. He left me in Folsom, and I begged that man for 2 years straight to let me use the phone. Every day, Fonzel, let me use the phone. Fonzel, let me use the phone. Because the phone is in like a cage outside in the sun, like a phone booth, but it's in a cage. No chair, no nothing. It's got a little bitty cord on it about this long. So you got to be close up on it to talk on it, right? And he finally let me in there one day, and he did his little work. Do you know that that evil young man left me in that cage for 8 hours straight? I called every number I knew. People was tired of me calling. He was that evil. Then one time, this white guy, he was on the tier above me, and he got a Dear John letter. For those of y'all that don't know what a Dear John letter is, that's when your girl send you a letter saying, hey, man, I ain't doing this no more, loose cannon. I'm not staying down with you. I got me a new boyfriend. And most dudes in there go crazy. Like, you will go crazy if you don't get a letter. You don't know the value of a letter until you get to prison. And for God's sake, you don't know the value of a woman with a vibrant vagina, a rhythmically vibrant vagina, is what you miss when you're in prison. Because the fat, ugly prison guards be looking like supermodels, man. So there's 3 things they deprive you of in there. Of course, 4: freedom, sugar, fruit, and real meat, and pussy. Because pussy is the closest thing to heaven on earth. Heaven lies between the legs of a woman, homie. Don't get it twisted. That's the closest you're going to get to heaven on this planet.
Closest.
That's it. And a nation can rise no higher than this woman. So we got no good women, then fool, you must be responsible for that.
Yeah.
But you don't know the value, I'm going to say it one more last time, 3 more times, of a woman in my Dr. Umar voice. You don't know the value. You don't know the value. You don't know the value of a woman until them white folks lock your ass up. And if you want to see some extraordinary artwork, they should have a sale where you can buy artwork from prison. Because the stuff that you see in there make Picasso and Rembrandt look stupid. Sculptures and stuff they made from this. They'll make this out of toilet paper in there and put burgundy on it. If they make lipstick and makeup for men in there who are into that lifestyle, what do you think they can do in the arts and craft department? You have to see it. I'm gonna see if we can get some. It's especially with the Hispanics. They do some phenomenal things. And if you wonder how you light your joints in prison, what you do is you take a piece of lead from a pencil and a wire, and you connect them together like that and get a spark. Survival on the streets.
That's it. You ever actually been to Soul Train?
No, sir.
Okay. Did you ever know any Soul Train dancers?
Yes, I do. And I just put in a text to see if we can get uh, a couple of them onto our show. And do you remember this sister named Methusa? I think her name is. What's her name? She's in the rap game.
Hmm. Medusa?
Medusa. Medusa. Shout out to you, Medusa. We trying to get you on Wild Moguls. You know what I'm talking about? They've been in LA for years.
Yeah.
She is one of the best and well-known socialites in the hip-hop industry. See, there's two types of hip-hop. There's two types of rap. Because hip-hop is like this. Anybody can be in the hip-hop. You get hip, you hop in, and you hop out. Those are culture vultures. But rap, meaning that you are wrapping your mind around something, life experiences that happen to you or people that you know or you coexist with. That's why Public Enemy is totally different than the Beach Boys. That's why Nas was different than, uh, say, a Too Short. Not that they're negative, but there's two different lanes. Back when I was growing up, you had music that lift you up, our men, women, and children. Public Enemy and LL Cool J's, you know. They were some heavy hitters, man. So they was into rap. Hip hop, anybody can be in. That's why they call it pop or crossover. And the first time music was ever crossed over through rap was when Run DMC did something with some rock and roll group with My Adidas song. Remember that song? My Adidas. Standing on 125th Street. Remember that?
It saved Adidas.
Yeah.
They
Saved
was going
Adidas' life.
bankruptcy.
This is the second time that rappers saved Adidas. They was the first, Kanye was the second.
Yep.
Because when I was growing up, the word Adidas stood for the acronym All Day I Dream About Sex.
And Michael Jordan saved Nike.
But Michael Jordan didn't save black people in the ghetto. But a lot of black people that I know and know of, when we tried to get Nike's attention, my philosophy to Daoud was, dude, every time we stand over a body of a young person, they got Nike on. Or they died trying to get some money to buy Nike. So we called a press conference. You can read about it too, where we were able to get Nike's attention, and one of our city officials, State Senator Maxine Waters, got involved, and it just didn't transpire after that. I heard someone said that she told us, and it's interesting how I circled that around. I heard someone say that she told us that we just wanted the power, and we didn't. We just wanted Nike to give us the contract just to wrap the little plastic around the tip of the shoelaces.
Mm-hmm.
Just give us that so we can empower our people. That's it. They had one black representative and they had given out $200 worth of shoes when we got on their bumper. So shout out to the first black lady that was hired by Nike to deal with our ass. So we have a lot of stories to tell. Buckle up.
Oh, Maxine Waters.
Yeah. Yeah. Senator Maxine Waters. I tell you, Maxine Waters one day at, I believe, the Democratic Convention's dinner or something. My boy from Watts, Daoud, took us there on behalf of the black carpenters or something of that nature. And I seen her in the lobby, and I was like, Miss Maxine. I said, man, you gotta be a different type of person to go in and deal with all them different spirits all day. And I call the white folks, because the oppressors are the ones I'm talking about when I go about race. I'm not talking about regular people. Things that I'm talking about, corporate America, those who spend their whole life oppressing us. I said, well, you gotta have some real tough skin to really deal with that. I said, but to be honest with you, I wouldn't want to be you before God for nothing in the world, right? Because in my spiritual mind, I'm like, you're part of the system. And according to Pharaoh and them, they don't normally make it in front of God. They have a lot of explaining to do, whether it be good, bad, or otherwise. We all do. I said, but you know what you need to do? Now, mind you, she is the one who voted on the Senate floor on behalf of us in the medical marijuana community back then when I was involved getting social equity for blacks. Because I was the first person to bring the medical marijuana idea to the city of Los Angeles through Herb Wesson. They didn't even know this, such a thing existed. So I took them to a weed shop. And they had promised, like, we're not going to raid it, but just take us over there, Malik. So this is verifiable through Herb Wesson, the council person here in Los Angeles. And I said, you know what, Maxine, we trying to get the weed thing legal. So she voted on the Senate floor for it to go through. Thank you for that. But on the contrary, I told her, you need to go home and smoke you a joint. And her daughter walked up like, what did he say? Or something like that. I was like, I told your mom she need to go home and hit a joint, stick her that weed. And she just looked at me like, and I was dead serious. Yep.
Unbelievable.
But true. And we got some bomb guardians of the galaxy on our page, man. Shout out to all of y'all. I can't remember your names. But if you say something slick on Wild Moguls, especially when we're trying to be actual and factual, we got some females on there, man, that'll smash you, man. So I make sure that I shout them out and always know to the black women that if I say something that does not resonate with you or foul or disrespectful, it seems that it's said toward you or about you, absolutely not. Because my mother's black, my grandmother's black, my auntie's black, my daughter's black. So I'm not into that. But if I find something that's interesting and we need to discuss it, then we're going to definitely give that an opportunity.
And is there anything else you want to tell? Last closing thoughts.
You know, as I contemplate my last remarks in regards to 2026, because this will be the last shows of 2026 for Wild Moguls TV. We would like to wholeheartedly and sincerely thank you for rocking with us, as they say in the streets. We really need that. We've reached a milestone from 3,000 subscribers to almost 10,000. We're trying to reach a goal of 10,000 now as we speak. So press like, subscribe, and share. And we really appreciate our female audience giving us the boost that we needed. And if I say something that's politically incorrect, just check me. That's all. But to the men out there that's just at home listening, I hope that you extrapolate some sort of uh, understanding about my experience personally as an individual, being an activist for many years, going over 350 gang-related funerals, and balancing the act between trying to be part of the journalist world as well as in the streets. I'm not going to always be correct. And I'm 60 something plus years old. So shout out to y'all and all the positive comment makers. And as I always say, I done been around the block and up a couple of alleys, baby. And I play from the Getty to the ghetto, from the streets to the suites. Out.